Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Priscilla Winkpo, and today we have the privilege and the honor, I must say, of speaking with the CEO, MD of BOI Nigeria, none other than the one and only Mr. Kayode Pitan. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing today?
Well, fine. A bit cold, but it's fine.
Welcome to our cold weather. You're coming from one extreme into another extreme, right?
Exactly.
Well, I hope we can, whilst you're here, we can have enough heaters to keep you warm.
Thank you.
I mentioned there, BOI. BOI Nigeria is a bank of industry, as some of you may know, some of you may not know at home. But I would like you to just give us a snap overview of what the Bank of Industry in Nigeria is about.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bank of Industry, it's a DFI. DFI means a development financial institution.
Okay.
We are the foremost one in Nigeria. It was set up in 1959. Over the years, a few changes, restructuring, the merger of NIDB, Nigerian Bank of Commerce and Industry, and NEFund gave birth to Bank of Industry.
Okay.
Basically, we support industry, micro, medium, and the large corporates, in terms of restructuring, expansion, anything that has to do with manufacturing. And that covers
a wide
spectrum of things.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we do. And it's well run. It's owned by government. When I say by government, about 98% of the shareholding is between Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Finance. So basically, it's a government-owned bank.
Yeah.
But it's a well-run bank.
When you say well-run, what is that in essence?
Well, there are many ways you can look at a bank.
Okay.
When I say a well-run bank, one of the ways you can know how a bank is run is the rating that the bank has. There are independent bodies that look at the banks and will tell you, based on what we have seen, capital adequacy, in terms of the quality of the credits and what they are doing, corporate governance. We have a Fitch rating.
Wow.
And we're AA. We have a Moody's rating.
You're doing better than the UK at the moment. Because
we're AA.
We've had some of our ratings reduced.
Yeah. And we have Augusto & Co., which is the foremost one in Nigeria. With AA. In terms of the balance sheet size, we're about 1 trillion now.
Wow.
The main focus of Bank of Industry is not to make profits, but we're profitable. We've closed the year for 2018. The books have been audited, but I believe we are going to close the year for close to 30 billion in profit.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. Now, you've said so much about the areas that BOI covers. Before we become a medium size, or before we become, the big corporates, as it were, we would start somewhere. Usually the SME, and the SME, of course, it's said to be what grows and develops the economy. So, tell us a little bit about the SME aspect of BOI.
Okay, thank you. Now, you're right, SMEs, it's an engine of growth for, even in the UK, you have more SMEs than the big corporates. In BOI, we do support SMEs a lot. We have a program that we are running with government, the GEEP program. You must have been hearing of trader money and market money, We'll have touched about roughly about 1.5 million people, with those type of loans. But aside from that, we have facilities for small companies. Some of those facilities, basically your security, either if you're a cooperative, they co-insure each other, or sometimes they have guarantors, people that work who are a bit high up in civil service, or they work in the banks or telecom companies. We do support them. We have programs that we run with the state governments.
Okay.
There are at least 20 state governments. We have what we call the matching fund. How does that work? A state, maybe Kaduna State, comes and says to Bank of Industry, we're going to give you 1 billion naira. And we'll tell them, the amount you give us, we are going to match it. So we put down $1 billion also, and we lend that money in their state.
Oh, wow.
You know,
strictly in that state.
In that state.
Okay.
That's the matching fund, because it's a way of encouraging, some of the states governments too to be involved in what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Because we are pan-Nigeria, nobody can do it all. So we say, okay, fine. Also, you also put your money, where your mouth is.
Yes.
And about 20 states, we are doing that.
Okay.
And basically, most of those loans are not secured the way the commercial banks will ask for security. So we are very active in that area.
On that note of commercial banks and security, before I go into my next question, I really want us to give us an understanding of how BOI differs to commercial banks in Nigeria, so that we get a clearer understanding of, BOI. I'm aware, for instance, that their lending rates are a lot better. Commercial banks will probably ask you to bring your ancestors. And, BOI may not ask you to bring your ancestors, for instance. So if you can help us to understand that.
Now, like I said, we're a DFI. By virtue of our mandate, for instance, commercial banks.
Right.
If you're looking at it in practical terms, in Nigeria today, if you want to borrow money from the commercial banks,
yes,
the interest rates, anywhere between 20 and 35%.
That's quite high.
Per annum, depending on which bank you're talking to and the purpose for which you want to use the money for.
So it differs subject to what you're using it for.
Because the security might also be different. There are some facilities that are secured with cash. Maybe somebody wants to help you. He has cash, so he tells the bank, don't worry, hold my cash. So the risk of that type of lending is much lower.
Right.
Or maybe the facility is backed up by treasury bills.
Okay.
But on the average, the commercial banks will charge you over 20% per annum. Now, most of the loans they also give out in Nigeria, based on the fact that the source of their deposits are not long-term. Most Nigerians, because maybe of inflation, they look at devaluation, they don't keep money for long periods in the bank. So the banks also, to avoid mismatch, don't give out loans that exceed maybe 2 or 3 years. So the loans are shorter in the commercial banks.
Right.
The rates are higher. So if you come to Bank of Industry, we can give out loans up to 10 years.
A longer period.
Longer period. Then our interest rates are much lower. Most of the facilities that we grant at BOI, they don't exceed 10% per annum interest rate.
That's really good.
Yeah. Commercial banks, we accept deposits. If you have money, you can go and give money to them.
Yeah.
We don't take deposits from individuals.
Okay.
We source our money from governments, and through bonds, So those are the major differences. And basically our own focus is not profit making.
Okay.
We are looking at how we can touch the society, how we can put the resources and the capital, in the areas of priority for government. So we look at things like employment, this particular facility, how many people, how many jobs will it create? This facility.
When you say facility, sorry to interrupt you there, are we then talking about, let's say for instance, I came to you with a business idea and I'm seeking funding. Is the assessment of my funding of my business to see if, how many people it will employ? Is that what you mean by facility?
Well, facility, it's the amount of money you're asking for, what you want to do with it.
Yeah.
But in our assessment of whether to give you the money or not, we want to know that what you're going to do, will it create jobs?
Right.
Because one of the things we look at Bank of Industry is that we want to support businesses that create jobs. We want to support businesses that use local raw materials. Right. Because when you do that, then the pressure on foreign exchange is reduced. So we take those kind of things into consideration. More for us than commercial banks. It's not only the profit we are looking at.
Yeah.
We're looking at, sometimes we give out those facilities, to deepen capacity, some areas. For instance, when you look at things like Nollywood, Nigerian films, they're very popular.
Extremely, everywhere.
Everywhere,
Yeah.
If you were to go to a typical commercial bank to ask that you want a facility to produce a film, you're not likely to get it. But we support the creative industry because we know it can generate a lot of employment.
Right.
Somebody comes to us and all he or she has is a script. Say, look, I have a script, I want you to help me finance it to be made into a film. So we look at it differently. So we get a committee of experts
Right.
who will read the scripts and tell us this has potential. They will back them up. So we are going the extra, we're going the extra mile to ensure that we support people like that. They have ideas.
In effect, you're thinking out of the box.
Oh, yes, we have to.
In looking at ways to assist.
Yes. To create jobs.
Yeah.
And to ensure that good ideas get funded.
Oh, that's encouraging to hear. Now, if you've just tuned in, I'm speaking with the MD of Bank of Industry Nigeria. The number is up on the screen. Do call in if you have any questions you would like to ask of him. Perhaps you have a business idea. Perhaps you've had any contact with BOI previously. I don't know your experience, but here's an opportunity to speak to the MD himself and learn more about what BOI can do, what they are doing, and how they can assist, if at all. So, sir, that's how they differ. I know you've mentioned about product and services and the SME. But let me come back, rewind a little bit. Because I'm aware that you retired yourself from banking. You've been in banking for like 25 years, and you decided you had had enough. But then why are you back at Bank of Industry?
It's a very interesting question. I've been in banking for about 30 years now.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, I said to myself, I've had enough.
Okay.
I'm quitting banking. They told me I was too young to leave at that time. But I wanted to do my own things, to have my own time, So I left. But 1 year, 6 months ago, about May 2017, the government came knocking and made me the MD of Bank of Industry. The question is, why did I accept?
Yeah, thank you, because more to the point, what made you change your mind?
Now, I was for most of the years I was in banking. I was in commercial and investment banking.
Okay.
I rose fairly quickly in my career, as far back as about from 17 years ago.
Okay.
I was already an executive director of the bank where I was working. About 2 years after that, I became MD of a bank.
Right.
So I have seen quite a bit. I've done commercial and investment banking. It was more profit-driven, targets. It was different. Sometimes, you get tired of doing that. This is a bit different. This is more of development. This is giving back to society.
Does this have anything, sorry to interrupt you, but does it have anything to do with your faith?
To some extent, yes.
Because we know that you're a pastor also.
Yeah, I am. You see, when I left banking, I concentrated on my pastoral side of me.
Okay.
I'd always been a pastor. I've been a pastor for over 20 years.
Wow.
Even all the time I was in banking.
So you were doing both?
I was doing both.
Wow.
So when I left 10 years ago, it was more, I put more emphasis on the pastoral side.
Right.
But that was a platform, to give back to society, to mentor the younger ones. But sometimes some of us who are in the church or the faith, we actually run away from reality.
Oh.
So when
Say
I look
that again.
I said we run away from reality.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you.
We hide in church, and I've always preached, that wherever you are, that's your pulpit.
Right.
Now, if I had been trained to be a good banker, we've been complaining things are not working in Nigeria. If you had somebody who was a bit more righteous, maybe things will work like that. So I said to myself, this is now an opportunity for me to actually act what I've been preaching.
Wow.
You know, if I go back, you know, to that job, if people come to the bank where I'm the MD CEO, they're able to get those facilities without paying a kobo for it. If I'm able to spread the righteousness I preach where I work, I reach more people, I make more impact than sitting in my small corner and complaining. So this is one of my ways of giving back.
Thank you for that. So, you know, having come back into the bank and now sort of wearing with a different mindset, as it were, what would you say are some of the things you've done to bring change to BOI?
Okay. I've been there now for about 1.5 years. When I resumed, you know, I found out that if we're going to make more impact, you know, in the system, we have to have the money to lend out. It's very interesting. People will say, well, you're a government bank. Government gives you money every year. Let's be practical here. In the last 2 years, government had been giving us, on the average, about 10 billion naira per annum.
Okay.
Now, my analysis shows that that is grossly insufficient.
Most people will say that's a lot of money.
10 billion is not a lot of money.
For a bank.
Let me give you an idea of what we did last year.
Okay.
Our disbursements last year, the loans we gave out at Bank of Industry last year was 270 billion naira.
Okay, that's over 1,000% of the 10 billion that you
Much
get.
more than that. So that means that in the last 1.5 years, I've been very active raising money. You know, because my dream is to ensure that maybe every year we give out facilities of about 1 trillion naira. Because
1 trillion naira.
1 trillion naira. That's my target.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
The money was not there. I had to look for it. You know, so I was busy raising money. For the very first time, we approached the international market to raise money. The initial plan was to raise $500 million. It was oversubscribed. We raised $750 million.
Wow.
In the last 1.5 years I've been in the bank, we have raised for the bank over $1 billion. You know, well, thank you to the people that, you know, worked with me. You know, it's collective effort. So the impact, you know, so you feel Bank of Industry more now because we have more resources. You know, so we've done a few things that were not being done before. You know, we work more closely with the banks. I came from the banking industry. Most of the bank CEOs are my friends or my colleagues. You know, so the language is easier to speak to each other. You know, the support is more. You know, we're spending a lot of money now on training. You know, in the last 1 year, we've done a lot of training. People have traveled to a lot of places. You know, we're trying to have the best practice. We went to Brazil to look at how their own DFI was running. You know, in Malaysia, and March this year we'll be in Israel. Okay. You know, with my board. You know, so we are putting structures in place. You know, that will take the bank to the next level. Right. My plan is in the next 1 year. You know, the balance sheet that I met when I resumed will have doubled it. You know? So that's what we've been able to do in about 1.5 years. You know. I'm sure we'll do a few more things this year. Wow.
Now, some would say that's highly ambitious. But you've matched the ambition with a great deal of effort and effect. So that is good. But then there is still one area that is very important to me. And to a lot of people watching. And I think the main reason why you're here today, it's the diasporans. Now, for those of us in the diaspora, we hear all these large figures. We hear of the numbers, but we also do some numbers ourselves. You know, we are said to do over 20 billion a year, and that's just the ones that are counted, not to mention the ones that we carry in our bags when we're going. I struggle with Nigerian banks in the sense that I'm constantly asking the question. We send over 20 billion. We have Nigerian banks that exist. Why aren't we marrying this up? A lot of Nigerian banks, the commercial banks that you mentioned, have domiciliary accounts. I have researched them. I have been on their cases. But we struggle here in the diaspora. A lot of us don't know about it. They do no adverts whatsoever. I don't know how we're supposed to access it. So that facility, I don't think is utilized. But I think that it's a great facility if we can, marry the two. So for me, does the Bank of Industry have any plans to take advantage of that huge contribution? You may not be able to access the amount, but how do you attract us to be able to use that money in the same industrial way to develop Nigeria?
Okay. That's very interesting. You're right. Nigeria receives a lot of money, from Nigerians who work overseas. And like you said, it's over $20 billion, annually. That's substantial, And when you look at the fact that today, if you have money in the UK, or some of the so-called money centers or tax havens that you have, they pay you 0.25%.
We can't compare the percentage.
No, what I'm saying is that, your money is better working for you in Nigeria. Because
for those who know the percentage that you can get in Nigeria.
It's better working for you in Nigeria because you mentioned domiciliary accounts.
Yes.
Basically, for those who are not aware of this, these are foreign US dollars accounts, pound sterling accounts
Euro.
that you can open with a Nigerian bank.
Yes.
You can put your money there in dollars. You can earn interest in dollars. They will pay you something more than what you can get in Britain. Of course, any financial person will come back and say to you, but the risks are not the same. We feel that our money is safer here and things like that. There's a risk-reward ratio. The richest man, black man in the world is a Nigerian. Dangote will tell you that the type of returns you get in Nigeria, there's hardly any other place in the world
that can match it.
That can match it.
Wow.
So if he's the richest guy,
if he's the richest guy,
in the world, African, and he's investing about $9 billion US, in refinery and in investment, he can't be a stupid person. So the question is, how can we work more with Nigerians who are in diaspora? I believe we need to create instruments.
Okay.
Where they can invest. Maybe with some level of guarantees. Like for instance, like I said, Bank of Industry does not take money from individuals.
Yes.
But maybe we can have an instrument. Because we raised the money. We're going to raise $500 million.
Yes.
We raised $750 million. These monies came out of there are 16 banks.
Yeah.
4 of those 16 banks were Nigerian banks who were based in the UK. The 12 other banks were not Nigerian banks. Possibly Nigerians put money in those banks.
It's possible.
At 0.25%. These banks came and gave the money to me at LIBOR plus 4 or 5. If that money had come to me directly, it would have reduced the cost of doing business in Nigeria.
Yes.
And the owner of the funds would have gotten something better. So I think we need to work, on instruments where people here can invest in, and then maybe do a little bit more in advertising the fact that the opportunities back home. I think that's important.
You heard it here first. Bank of Industry are going to create an instrument that will help you to invest your money in Nigeria. Now, on that note, sir, one of the things that we worry about a lot is trust. Trust for us, when I say for us, is mainly because those of us who live in the diaspora, as I often say, we are spoiled. We switch on our lights. If you switch on that light and it doesn't come on, it's not because of a third party. It's primarily because of you. It may not have anything to do with the electricity company. It could be that you haven't paid your bill. But if there's a power cut, everybody will experience it. So we're spoiled like that in the sense that things work. And a lot of the times it's seamless. And if it isn't, there's a reason. So trust is a big deal for us because we don't have the same experience. in Nigeria. So talk to me about, working with BOI. What are the securities for an individual who's thinking, okay, I've just heard you mention you want to create, and then I begin to prepare. But I'm thinking, well, can I trust you? I know he's a pastor, but can I trust him?
Well, don't invest because he's a pastor,
Thank you for that.
Invest because money matters are different things entirely. The question is, if you are a prudent investor and you're looking at investing, in an instrument that a BOI issues, you need to ask yourself, how is this bank run? Can we trust management? They have good corporate governance. Have they been profitable? They say they are owned by government. What happens when there are changes in government?
Yes, that's a crucial question.
But you ask yourself that question, and then the answer comes that, look, if this bank has been there for 60 years, governments have come and they have gone. They have remained, they've been growing every year, and they've been profitable. So they must know how to work with government. Now, how do third parties look at a BOI?
Okay.
A Fitch is not a Nigerian-owned
No,
organization.
it's not.
So Fitch has looked at us, and they are saying we're AA.
And that's really good. That's one of the best ratings.
Oh yes, and then you look at Moody's. They have the same thing. So these are people looking at what you have, externally, and they say this is a good bank. So when you put all of that into account, all of those things, then you can be sure the money is safe. Then what is the track record? People who are banks, international banks, have put $750 million into this bank. Now, it's not, you can't say that for every government institution. So they must know something, so if you are not really that, if you don't have the capability, to do the analysis, at least, those banks don't want to lose money, So Bank of Industry is a good case. Okay. The only thing is that, I don't expect to begin to hear, because people are watching us, they are listening. Oh, yes. So let me go and put money in Bank of Industry. We don't take deposit from people.
No deposits.
No deposits from people.
Yes.
So they can only put money in BOI if we decide to raise another instrument.
Okay. As you mentioned.
As mentioned, yes. Yeah. That's the only way they can put the money. But we don't do day-to-day. You don't open an account with us.
Okay.
But people might say, but we understand that you have money from Dangote. That's different. We have a product, where we encourage rich Nigerians, to put something back.
To invest somewhere.
To invest in Nigerians, So the scheme we have with Dangote is that we had a 5 billion naira fund, The idea was to make that fund to become 10 billion. And it was a matching fund arrangement.
Okay.
He's going to put in 5 billion. He's put in 2.5 billion already.
Okay.
So we put in another 2.5, making 5 billion. What's the money for? He wants to encourage Nigerians, small businesses.
Okay.
He's not charging any interest on it. The money was given to us in trust to manage to help other smaller Nigerian businesses. So his own money is at 0%.
Okay.
We charge 10%. Because it's equally matched. People who are able to take from that fund only pay 5%.
Wow.
So, and we encourage other rich Nigerians. If that is what you want to do, you can bring the money to Bank of Industry. But it's not normal deposit. Those are matching fund arrangements to help smaller businesses, people in manufacturing, it's just his own way of giving back.
Okay. It sounds like there's so much more that we're going to learn. Time doesn't permit us for a minute. We need to go on a break. But when we come back, we're going to go more into how we can access fundings available, find out more about what BOI can do. Don't go away. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. And if you've just joined us, I'm Priscilla Winkbo. And this evening, as it were, I am having a conversation with the MD of BOI, the Bank of Industry Nigeria, Mr. Kayode Pitan. He's still here with me. And, you know, when we went on the break there, we were talking about trust. Can we trust BOI? So thank you for that rundown. Bear with me a second. And as I said, the number is up on the screen. So please do give us a ring. If there are any issues that you're worried about, a question that you want to ask, you want to iron out, the MD is here. He will take your call. Thank you. So, sir, when we went on the break there, you know, you talked about the trust that you already have invested from banks around the world and how much money they have invested on that basis. Now, somebody's watching out there and thinks, that sounds really good. What is the process? How do I access this money?
Okay. Thank you. Like I said, we have so many different products.
Yes.
You know, there are areas of emphasis for us, you know, which are areas of emphasis for government.
Okay. What are
some of those areas? Yeah. You know, agro-processing, you know, because we want to promote agriculture. You know, if it's for primary produce, that's not primarily our own mandate. That is Bank of Agriculture.
Okay.
But if, for instance, now you have this orchard, you have oranges, and you want to produce orange juice, then you can come to us because we are doing some processing. You know.
So if I had a farm,
yes,
I should go to
if you want to have farming done,
yeah,
that's Bank of Agric.
So I go to the Bank of Agric.
But you want to take it another step.
You
want to be able to produce something with
tomato
what you
paste.
have, tomato paste, all of those things.
Yeah.
You can come to me.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
So that is.
Bear with me a moment. It would appear we have a caller. Do we have a caller? I record. Please turn down the volume of your TV, sir, so that you can speak to me directly. Hello? Okay, we're not connecting. Sorry, sir. Please continue.
Creative, you know, it's an area of emphasis for us. You know, people that have film houses, because it's a lot of employment in that area. Light manufacturing, you know, IT, you know, and technology. It's an area of emphasis for us. Mining, you know, it's an area of emphasis for us. Okay. Gender business, women, you know, we have found out over time that they do repay their loans at
no
better rates than the men. And generally, when you give the woman the loan, you know, you can be sure, you know, the whole family is going to benefit.
Yeah.
You know, so we actually have a desk for gender business.
So when you say gender business, we're talking primarily at businesses that are led by women?
Yes.
Okay.
Owned by them or led by them.
Okay.
You know, it's an area of emphasis for us.
Okay.
So and of course, we cover a lot of other areas, you know, manufacturing, every other thing. So if you want to access our facilities, you know, the new BOI that we have, you know, is such that you don't have to know the MD. In fact, I like it when I meet somebody and says, look, good afternoon, sir. I just want to say thank you. And I say, what are you thanking me for?
Yeah.
I say, well, I got a facility from you. You know, it was, you know, done quickly.
Wow.
I've never met you.
Okay. Let's hold on that thought for a minute. We have a John on the line. Good evening, John. Welcome to the program. John? Do we have a John on the line? Right, we're not...
Yeah, good evening, sister. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. What is your question and where are you calling from?
Yes, please. I'm on the line, please.
Yes, you're on the line. Your question, sir, and where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from London. My question is, please, I would like to ask boss.
Speak through the telephone. Don't worry about the TV. In fact, if you can move away from the TV, I will be most grateful.
Nigeria, or what about Ghana and Africa countries?
You very well because your TV is on. You're too close to your TV, sir. Please switch off your TV, the volume of your TV, turn it down, move away from the set and call in. It makes for better engagement. Thank you. So you were saying, you know, somebody doesn't have to know you.
No, you don't. You know, and things work. You know, there are some facilities you can actually apply online.
Right.
You know,
okay.
BOING. You know, most of the facilities, the conditions, the terms, you know, are on our website. You know, you can access that. You know, aside from that, we also understand that there are some people who are not familiar with some of all this packaging in terms of your cash flow, in terms of what you need to do. So we have some business support people,
okay,
you know, that have been pre-qualified by the bank. If you go to our website, there are over 200 of them. Depending on which state you are, you can just go there and pick any of them,
okay,
you know, and you can work with them, you know, for your applications that you can submit to Bank of Industry. You know, so we've made it very easy. It's transparent, you know.
I've also heard through the grapevine that if BOI gives you a facility and, you know, there's like some kind of hand-holding process. Quite literally, you have an officer that works with you and they're looking at your business, they're looking at the money that you, and sometimes they think you may need more money, and they themselves will actually advocate for that. We're going to come back to that. I just want you to confirm just how real that is. But for now, we have Olayinka on the line from London. Olayinka, welcome to the program. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to the program.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. My name is Olukayode, and I've got a question for Mr. Pitan, please.
Go ahead, please.
My question is, aside from the loan that's been provided by BOI, is there any support that BOI gives to their borrowers in terms of probably expertise and things like that? Because concerning the terrain of Nigeria, at times your kind of idea that you have coming from abroad is different from what you will find in Nigeria when you hit Nigeria. So is there any other support that the bank gives to their customers aside from the loan that they give to the customers?
All right, thank you very much, Yinka. I think we were just on that.
Yes, that's a good question. For instance, it's not all the time that money is a problem. You know, for instance, the matching funds I spoke about, that we have states that we work with, whatever amount of money they give to us, we match it. There are some states that on their own, they have stopped the scheme because we found out that the rates of default were very high. Okay. And they found out that some of these people, it was due to financial ignorance. For instance, in Kaduna State, the governor set up a small business school, we call it, you know, whereby before you have access to the facility, you know, you are meant to go through that place about 1 month, sometimes 2 months. So they can teach you the rudiments of business before you can access it.
Right.
So, yes, there are some capacity training that we do.
Okay.
You know, for instance, last month, December, was the first African trade fair in Cairo.
Yes.
Some of our customers, close to 100 customers, were sponsored by us at different levels. Some that are very, very small, we sponsor them 100%. Some 50%, you know. Some, we just created the avenue, you know, we're able to register them to go along with us to Cairo, you know, so that they can see how other people package their products and see what they do. So it's not only money.
Right.
We do and hold them. In fact, in some of the facilities that we grant to our customers, we actually insist that they have some of our staff members to be on their board.
Okay.
You know, basically it's just to advise them, you know, but now because of the laws, you know, being careful. Some resisted it. You know, say, why do you want to know what we are doing? You say, look, we're just trying to help you.
It's your money.
Yeah. We've been there for 60 years.
Yes.
You know, we analyze business plans every day. We have seen why some companies failed, you know. So if you have somebody from the bank who is working with you, you know, when you have your board meetings and advising you, you are getting 60 years of experience for nothing.
True.
You know, so there are ways, you know, we do that. So yes, to answer his question directly, you know, aside from money, we do handhold them, you know, and they do benefit from our experience. And we also do advocacy.
Okay.
Because sometimes some of their problems are due to maybe multiple taxation. You know, we can speak to other governments on their behalf.
Wow.
You know, or maybe like textile industry, for instance, you know, porous borders, smuggling, you know, we can let government know this is what is causing the problem. In some areas, it is power. So we are working now with our ministry to actually have some areas so you can have industrial parks, you know, where everything is provided, you know, and your cost of manufacturing is reduced. So there are many things that we do apart from giving money. You know, we also advocate for our customers.
Now, you know, Olayinka, I hope your question was answered there. Thank you for that. People are watching at home, not just here in the UK, but across Europe, and they're thinking, well, I live abroad. Can I still qualify for assistance with Bank of Industry? So does it matter where you're located, or must you be in Nigeria?
Well, where you're located does not matter.
Right.
But where your business is situated does matter.
Okay,
you know,
very important.
Yes, because basically we support businesses in Nigeria.
Right.
You know, and you don't have to be a Nigerian.
Really?
Know? Yes. So far, you are investing
in Nigeria.
You know, so if you're diaspora, you know, you want to do something in Nigeria, yes, you're eligible. You know, it's not your location. You know, maybe it's where your capital is. You know, yes, that's the way it works. You know, but Nigeria focused.
Nigeria focused. You did mention earlier that you know, it's about employment.
Yeah.
In as much as you don't live in Nigeria and it's Nigerian focused, how do you ensure that, you know, that business doesn't run aground, but then, you know, it is successful?
Well, there are different models that people can adopt for their businesses. There are some businesses that it's very difficult to be here in Europe and to be running them in Nigeria. You know, it's not advisable. But it depends on the size of the business and the scale of it. You know, if you have a business where you can have people manage it for you professionally, you know, then it's a bit easier. You know, the people that you employ who are going to do that on your behalf have a track record.
Yes.
You know, there's a structure. But usually for people, when they start out, you know, something in Nigeria, you know, and they're here in Europe, they don't start out big. They are small businesses. And they rely on relatives. You know, we've heard stories. You mentioned the issue of trust. We've heard stories of people that sent money back home for people to help them build houses or to run companies. And they keep on getting reports that these things are doing very well until they actually come to visit, you know. So I will advise, you know, that it should go beyond somebody being my brother or my sister, you know, make sure that the business plan is well done, have an idea of how the business runs, you know, and look at the area of risk, you know, and have risk mitigants in place, you know. Anything that you cannot control, you know, is subject to some abuse, you know. That's what we advise.
Now, tell me, how does BOI measure? How do you keep track of the many businesses that you fund? Nigeria is a huge place, and I know you made mention of 20 states, but that still leaves out 16. How then do we measure and keep track with each and every business that receives BOI funding?
Okay. Let me quickly correct something and then I will answer your question.
Okay.
You said I mentioned 20.
20 that you work in partnership with their government.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. That means 20 states have responded to us and they're saying, look, we want to work with you on matching funds.
Yes.
Even if your state does not have matching funds with us, that does not mean that people from those other states are not qualified to get facilities from us.
Thank you.
It's just that for the matching funds, where the state is putting money and we are putting money, then that facility is not available in your state.
Okay.
Our facilities are available, you know, throughout the whole country.
Nationwide, yeah.
Now, how do we measure? You know, when we give out facilities, you know, in our assessment, you know, we also assess how many jobs, will be created.
Yes.
And then we report that. It's one of the things we actually report.
Okay.
Jobs creation. For instance, if you ask me between 2015 and 2018,
right,
Bank of Industry had given out about 500 billion naira in facilities. About 2.1 million jobs were created. If you ask me, in the last 2 or 3 years of government, we have this Jeep program we do with government.
Right.
About 28 billion naira had been given out.
Okay.
About 1.5 million jobs had been created. If you look at N Power,
yes,
in the last few years, about 15 billion had been disbursed. About 200,000 jobs have been created. So job creation is one of the, the key parameters I have to report on.
Yeah.
So we monitor it.
Yeah.
We monitor it. We do visits. We get feedbacks from the people. It might not be totally accurate. Somebody might tell you, if you give me this money, I'm going to recruit 1,000 people. But don't forget that we have been in business for 60 years. So we know that what you want to do cannot employ
1,000 people on the money we're giving you. Yeah.
So, we do things like that.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm just going to pull you a little bit back. You've told us about different areas that you would put money to, facilities that you would give. But as an SME, that one of the key problems we have is registering our companies in Nigeria and all of that. But as an SME that is registered, that already has that in Nigeria, do I need to have any kind of matching funds, for instance, before I come for a BOI facility? Or can I just come to you with what I already have, and BOI will be able to look at that and say, okay, we can fund you?
No. You don't need to even know whether... the matching funds, is for the states to help people who are resident in their states.
Okay, so the matching funds thing is not a requirement for individuals per se?
No, because we have our own funds, which we can deploy.
Yeah.
But it's just that some of the states, the requirements for accessing the facilities have been reduced by those state governments. For instance, some of the states said to us, the money we are giving you, like Borono, is 0%.
Okay.
So it means that if you are from that state and you're taking money from us, you only pay 5%.
Ah.
Because your state is subsidizing your interest rate.
Okay.
But that notwithstanding, if you're not from that state and you want to borrow, we use our own money. You get the money at 10%. So it is not a limiting. It doesn't stop you from getting money from us.
What kind of collaterals do you ask for? I know I asked this question earlier in another way, but what kind of collaterals do I have to have in order to be able to access? Because every bank in the world, before they give you a loan, subject to how much you're borrowing, does ask for collateral. So what are this BOI? I know you're a development bank, but do you ask for collateral?
We do ask for collateral. For instance, let us start with NYIC people.
Right.
We do have facilities to encourage them to become entrepreneurs.
Okay.
What do we ask for as security? Their certificate.
Really?
Yes.
That's all?
That's all. But you'd be surprised that many of them will claim that their certificates are lost. But then there's a limit to how much you can get. Those are the loans that are between usually 1 to about 3 million naira. But then if you are just a young graduate, and you have an idea, we are putting money there. Other facilities, what about 10 million naira sometimes? All we ask for are guarantors.
Right.
People who are a bit senior in civil service, who work in organized companies, like the banks, maybe 2 guarantors, for those facilities.
Okay.
But by the time you begin to ask for over 10 million naira, then you get into things like properties.
Okay.
And then by the time you are getting to higher figures and things like that, then because we are in about 24 states.
Yeah.
There are 36 states in the country. So we work through the commercial banks a lot.
Okay.
You cannot open a bank account with us. So we tend to deploy most of our facilities through commercial banks.
Okay.
So we can say, if your commercial bank is willing to guarantee us, we can, give you the money through your commercial bank.
Okay.
You know, because basically what we offer and what we're able to provide is long-term funding at a reasonable, cost to you.
Yeah.
So it varies. The security arrangement varies. It can
subject
be
to the amount.
The amount and what you want to do with it.
Okay.
So it varies.
You mentioned certificate there, and it just brought to my mind very quickly. And again, when you're registering a company in Nigeria, sometimes they will require you to produce a certificate in the area that you're registering the company in. Now, going into business, you're not always going to have a certificate for management and all of those things. But does BOI require that kind of qualification to be produced before you can access funds?
It depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
If, for instance, you want to go into mining, and you are asking for a facility, there are things we ask you. Do you have a license to do what you want to do?
Okay.
So there are times we have to ask for it because it is required for what you want to do. You want to do some drugs production. We ask you what you want to produce. It's registered with NAFDAC.
Okay. So it's for those sensitive areas.
Exactly, that we do. And people complain that we're not able to get NAFDAC registration on time. This one is too expensive. In the last few years, the vice president, been having these, clinics,
right.
For small businesses, MSME clinics. And usually what happens in those clinics is that all the government agencies that you require, for your business,
they turn up.
They're all there. You want an export license or you want something to, NEPC will be there. The tax authorities are going to be there. BOI will be there. NAFDAC will be there. So, it's a one-stop shop where you can do everything. And maybe for people in diaspora, maybe what we need to do is maybe have a day or two whereby we can have all these agencies of government, be in a place in London or somewhere like that, and they can discuss all of these things and probably let people know what they need to do to be able to do that kind of business, So we don't ask you for certificates that we don't require because it must be part of what is required for you to do your business.
So I wish we could go on. I feel like we're just getting into it, but unfortunately, we do have to go. Well, Mr. Pitan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We've just heard from the MD of BOI. There are so many more questions I'm sure you have that you would like answered, but you've just heard him. He says maybe we should have a day when we can talk about this some more. So listen out. That day is coming soon. Thank you for joining us. For now, take care.